Your builder consultant will be your best source for finding good quality, dependable subcontractors. Another way to find local subs is to drive through new communities being built that are close to your home site. You might want to ask the project manager for recommendations. Some will be responsive and others not, but it doesn't hurt to ask. Local suppliers can also be a good source for possible subcontractors. For example, your lumber supplier can typically tell you which rough carpenters are easy to work with in your area. Concrete supply companies can recommend foundation and flatwork trades. Don't be afraid to look in small towns outside the city for subcontractors. Oftentimes, if the trade comes from a lower cost of living, your pricing will be better. The Home Builders Association is another source for finding trade contractors. My experience with trades that are part of the local HBAs has been positive. Make sure you have a minimum of 3 subcontractors for each activity for bidding purposes. This ensures your pricing is competitive and will allow you to choose the trade that you feel most comfortable working with. Now you can put these bid packages together and send them out. I highly recommend including a deadline for submitting their bids. I think a fair time frame for returning of the bids is 2 weeks. So once you've received all of your bids, you can start to make comparisons. Keep in mind, cost is not your only consideration when comparing bids. You'll also want to check references and compare quality of past work. Other items to consider are time to complete activity, warranty, service capability, experience, number of years in business, and which company owners actually work on site. As far as references go, make sure each trade provides a minimum of 3 builder references and be sure to call them. Builders love to give feedback on trades, either good or bad. Also ask the trade how service issues are handled. Is there a 24-hour answering service? All good mechanical trades have these. If you've ever had a furnace go out at 3 a.m. on a cold winter morning, you know how important this is. As far as the owner working on site with the crew, I find these companies more often than not have the best quality. Why? Because the owner takes pride in what he or she does and knows how expensive rework can be. Keep in mind, this is typically not possible with large companies. One last item to check before hiring a trade. Do they have a license? The trades that should have a license include electricians, plumbers, HVA subcontractors, and roofers. I've seen good trades without a license, but I don't recommend you use these because of the risk. Since you are an owner builder, everyone you hire should be 100% competent, no questions asked. Okay, once you've carefully reviewed and compared the bids and found your leading candidates, it's time to negotiate. When it comes down to the final negotiation, I like to meet face to face. It adds a personal element. The first item to discuss in your negotiation is quantity. Compare the trade's estimated quantities with the others. If a significant difference exists, you or your builder consultant will want to do an estimate of your own to check for accuracy prior to the meeting. Show the trade your estimated quantities. Stand firm on your estimates and don't accept the old excuse, I add 10% for waste. Waste factors should only apply to materials, not labor. Next, discuss the actual material prices shown. You'll want to do some homework prior to this meeting. Check with several suppliers to see what a similar material goes for, given the quantity you'll need. Some contractors inflate the material cost. Keep in mind, any trades that buy significant quantities of materials will get significant volume discounts. I typically like to have the vendors buy and handle the material themselves. I do this for several reasons. 1, it's one less thing that I have to manage. 2, if the material is stolen from the job site, I'm not responsible, as long as it hasn't been installed yet. And 3, when a trade buys the material, they have the tendency to be more careful with the waste. And 4, there's never a question regarding who's responsible for a failure. Let me explain this last item a little bit further. If I give the plumber the faucets to install and something goes wrong with the faucet, whose responsibility is it? If the plumber provided the faucet, he works with the supplier to solve the issue. If I gave the plumber the faucet, I have to deal with the issue. I don't know about you, but I like making other people responsible. Another negotiation point is the actual type of material used. Ask the trade if there are any other material choices that might be less expensive but have similar quality and characteristics. Some subcontractors have manufacturer relationships that reduce their cost. For example, an HVAC subcontractor might use mostly Acme furnaces and probably buys these with the volume discount. Or your plumber might use mostly ABC faucets and therefore can pass some of the savings on to you if you use these. Another question for your subcontractor for reducing cost is, do you know of a more efficient way to get the job done but with similar results? I had a lumber supplier save me $2,000 per house by suggesting a different floor framing system. You couldn't tell the difference in the house after it was completed, meaning the quality was the same. This one was a no-brainer. The last item in the negotiation process is to just flat out ask, is there anything else you can do to lower your cost? Some vendors will give significant discounts for early payment. Others may offer discounts if they can put a sign in your yard. This is especially true on highly visible job sites. Another item to consider for price reduction would be cleaning up after the subcontractor. For example, it probably doesn't make sense to have a union electrician clean up at the end of the job at $60 an hour when you could have an $8 an hour laborer clean up.